are listening to Spooky Mountain. I'm Steph.
And I'm Geordie. And you have just started listening to our very special Halloween bonus episode. And I'm sure if you're watching this, I'm sure you can tell that there's something a little bit different about this episode.
Yeah, yep. So this is also just a normal, regular podcast episode. But if you want, you can stop now and go over to YouTube because you can see our freaky faces.
You can see our faces. We've been freaky faces. We've been very excited about this and we've been planning it for a while. And we made the big decision that we were going to do video for this one just to make it that little bit extra special.
Yeah, a bit more personal, I guess. You can see us when we're talking, and because we look at each other every time we do a podcast, so it's nice if you want to. Yeah,
this is kind of what we see when we record each episode, because we record all our episodes through video. We haven't done one single episode in person, so this is what we see every episode, and now you can see it as well. And it's safe to say, I think we're both feeling a little bit exposed. But that's okay. It's good to be vulnerable.
Yeah. We had a full plan as well. We were really excited. We bought so much Halloween
Both
stuff.
Of us,
we're going to do full Halloween backdrops and
I
everything.
Bought fairy lights and spooky fairy lights and everything. No, it didn't work out.
No, we've got the black background.
I've got the.
Yours is really dark. Mine's I got a grey. It's obviously a bedsheet.
Well,
but
mine, my boyfriend is a theatrical rigger. So he sets up rigging in theaters and stuff. And so this is a full on.
Is that what he does?
Yes. So this is a proper theatrical. You know, if you go
stage blacks.
So if you go to a show and they drop the curtains or the backing curtain, that's what that is. So that's why it's so dark.
God.
It's
it's completely absorbed.
It absorbs all the light.
Lighting.
It absorbs so much of the light that this red that is shining on me, I was planning on putting that just shining behind me, but I couldn't because the blackness was just sucking it all up.
That's great.
Yeah, so
I've got to get. I'm gonna have to get some material off you for our next video one because mine. I have possibly cats inside the sheets behind
me.
Barnaby
and Ernie are
They thought I was making them a tent house because there's lots of shelves holding it all up, and I can hear them back there. They really were quite excited while setting up.
Listeners, if you're lucky, we might have a guest appearance from
rip the whole thing down, reveal what's behind me, my house.
And your cats are the purest of white as well, so it would just be a white flash across the screen.
Yeah, they are big white fluff balls. Oh my gosh.
So let's talk about our episode that we're doing tonight, because it is nighttime. Yeah. It's quite late at night because we wanted to keep the spooky atmosphere.
It is.
So we have listener stories. We're not going to, so usually on an episode we go into our socials and everything, but fuck that. We're not doing that tonight. We're just getting to the real meat of the...
Yeah, we're going straight into it.
Yeah, we got... So for a few weeks we've been doing shout-outs for listener stories, and both...
Yeah, you guys probably have seen them.
Steph and I have compiled listener stories, but still we've hidden them. We kept them secret from each other to the best of our ability, because this is what we usually do in a regular episode. So we tried to keep that as much as possible, but it's a little bit harder when you share email, the podcast email and messages and stuff.
So I've just been asking people DM me. Don't. I know we always say email us, but don't do it this time.
Yeah. Just somehow figure out to do it in secret. But so we don't know exactly what we're gonna have.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear
I'm excited to have yours, and you have 3 stories?
I've got 3, so I've got 3 listener stories.
Awesome.
And I think you've got 3 or 4 as well?
I've got 4. One of them is a little bit longer than the others, and I also just took some time to ask this person some questions as well about their experience that they shared, because it's just so hectic. I was like, I need to know more. So, yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
okay.
It's very exciting.
Hell
very
yeah.
exciting. Yeah, so did you want to get into... Oh, am I going first this time?
You know what?
I'm
you
going
go first this time.
Oh, this is weird.
Because you got 4. I reckon
I go
you go
first. Yeah, I got more. Okay. Oh, okay. This feels so strange going first.
I just realised I was like, hang on, I always go first.
All right. So first of all, this is special because we have a story written in from one person, but it's shared by 2 people. Like 2 people shared the experience.
Oh wow. Okay.
So cool. Let's start. Hi ladies, here is my green light story for your podcast. It was March, I was 11, and one of my best friends, Kathleen, was also turning 11. She had a birthday party on the weekend in her backyard. We were there most of the afternoon, playing games and eating, etc. There were around 10 or so people there from memory. So actually more than 2 people shared this. It's more like 10 people maybe shared this.
Oh,
but
wow.
Maybe not.
Okay.
We'll see. When the sun started to go down, it must have been maybe 4-ish or a bit later and getting darker. And this is where it gets weird. Around sunset, we were all getting ready to pack up and leave soon. And as we were standing there in the backyard, all of a sudden, there was a green flash across the sky. Flash might not be the right word, but it was hard to describe. I remember it like a wave of vibrant green rolling across the sky from horizon to horizon. Then all the lights in Kathleen's house went out. So it must have affected the electricity, I guess. They came back on a short time later, I believe, and I also have a vague memory of a whooshing sound as it went across. I remember it being so bizarre and scary. I was not the only one at the party who saw this. Kathleen and I, to this day, still talk about it and wonder what it could have been. One of the first times we talked about it in detail to each other, once we got older, we realised our memories of it were slightly different. Kathleen remembers it moving across the sky in a straight line, and I remember it with more of a soft curve. But we both still experienced it and remember it. It was one of the strangest things to ever happen to me, and I have no explanation. I lived around the corner from Kathleen, so after this happened, I ran home and told my dad. He told me a fuse box probably just blew and left it at that. I accepted this until I saw a fuse box blow up when I was a teenager. The light was blue and it was more of an electrical explosion, like lightning with a loud bang. Not a wave, vibrant green light from horizon to horizon. Also, the lights at Kathleen's house had come back on too soon after. As an adult, I have researched what we saw on the internet many times. The best explanations I have been given are 1, the Aurora Australis, which is like the lights in the sky. But the issues with this theory, not usually seen that far north. The aurora is more fluid, and what we saw was more uniform, moving across the sky. A wave of green filling the whole sky, and it doesn't explain the power loss either. Theory number 2, a phenomenon called the green flash. The green flash is a phenomenon that occurs at sunset and sunrise when conditions are favourable and results when 2 optical phenomena combine, a mirage and the dispersion of sunlight. As the sun dips below the horizon, the light is being dispersed through the Earth's atmosphere like a prism. Issues with this theory, from what I have read about this, it mostly happens over the ocean or while observing the sunset, and it is described as a flash of light rather than what we saw. And again, it doesn't explain the power out. Third theory, it's probably just aliens. And most people, and this is what most people tell me, if you or anyone of your podcast listeners have any ideas, please let us know. It's a mystery, many years in the making. And that was from Sarah and Kathleen.
Awesome. Yep. Thanks, guys. Oh, my God.
I really like this one because I have seen the Aurora Borealis when I was living in Canada, and it is so different to just like a wave of green light going across the sky. It's so different to that. Right. So I don't think that's what they saw at all.
I didn't know we had what is it, Aurora?
We do.
I had no idea.
I think it's mostly
we had that.
Tasmania.
Oh, Tasmania gets it. I thought it would just be Antarctica. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's mostly is it Tasmania or is it up north? I can't remember. But yeah, I think it's a different colour to what you see kind of like in the northern countries.
Yeah, like the green, blue kind of colour. That's really cool. I like how there's two people
who experienced it. Yeah. Something that came to my mind when I read this story was that it could have been like a, what do you call it? Like a solar flare. You know how like there's something called a solar flare that can come off the sun. But if it was a solar flare, it wouldn't just be one house. It would be like a whole city wiped out from electricity. So I don't think that's what it is, because I even did a bit of researching on like solar flares, and no, there's like no way that's what it was either.
I mean, I honestly just think it is an alien.
It's an alien.
I think it's an alien because I keep saying alien and not UFO.
It's an alien. It's just like one single alien.
It was like UFOs probably don't have aliens in them. I'm like, I can't help it. I just say alien. There's an alien flying in the sky.
But can you not picture it perfectly, exactly what she's describing? I can imagine it exactly just like that. Like waves,
it was described
like
really
that
well.
Line of green going across the sky.
That's such a cool thing to share and experience with someone as well, and like stay friends with them the whole time and be able to like talk about it and be like, this was fucked up, and I'm so glad we both saw it.
And refer back to it, because I think when it's just yourself, you kind of doubt yourself, but then
try to be crazy.
You don't have anyone to talk about it with either, you know? So yeah, I really, really liked that one.
I love that.
And it's just like a simple what the fuck, like a simple don't know what it was, you know. I mean, that's got the tick of a UFO tick from me. I think that's a UFO tick from me as well.
For sure. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to my first story. This is from one of our listeners, and her name is Jaden. So wonderful Jaden sent us in an email. All right, so it starts off, "Hi, spooky ladies." That's us. That is us.
We are pretty spooky.
I've always grown up knowing my mum believed in ghosts. We both worked together at a school in the Blue Mountains, and some of my earliest memories of a kid is going up there on ghost tours. The school is a former seminary where men studied to be priests from the 20s to the 70s, so lots of spooky potentials there. The buildings are large and sandstone as well. Creepy. Up until recently, I thought it was all a bit of fun until I actually asked her about it, and she told me this story. This was the late 90s, and the school security was very lax. If you had a key, you could go up anytime you wanted. Mum said it wasn't uncommon for her and other staff members to be at school at 10, 11 at night, especially during busy report seasons. One night, when she first started, she was up there working on her reports. She heard the footsteps of another staff member make their way up the stairs to the second floor, walk to the staff room door, and then stop. Mum looked up to say hi, but there was no one there. So she got up to check. No one. Then she heard the footsteps retreat down the hall again. This happened on multiple occasions, hearing the clear footsteps making their way up and walked to the door, stopping and then making their way back down again. As I said, my mum's always been a bit of a woo-woo believer, but what surprised me was that my super rational science teacher, Dad, excitedly chimed in that it happened all the time. Knowing the history of the place, there's been a lot of rumours. Is it the soul of a sinful priest, a young seminarian, I hope I said that right, who committed suicide? The souls of a priest and a nun who were forbidden to be together? We may never know. Mum said she felt unsafe, that she knew spirits were there, but that they weren't malicious. However, she did say that another staff member would organise Aboriginal elders as guest speakers, but time and time again they refused to enter the main building due to too much activity.
Wow.
They opted instead to go around, unwilling to disturb whoever is still there. Thanks for reading. If I ever have another spooky story, you ladies will be the first to know.
Ooh, thanks, Jaden.
Awesome.
What a
Thank
great
you,
story.
Jaden.
Okay.
That's very fucking creepy.
It's very creepy. I have a few things to say about this. I don't want to take up too much time because we want to try and keep it tight. But I know the school that she's talking about. I've been on a tour of this school, and it's very, very old, very creepy. So much history behind it. But also, I used to have a friend that I went to primary school with, and her father was like a military man from the army, very scary bloke, because he was really harsh and very mean kind of but absolutely no bullshit, nothing like that. We were at this school for an event or something, and I was with my friend and her mean dad, and he was something weird really happened to me at this school when I was a kid. And I was and I would have been maybe 10 at the time when he was telling me this.
Right.
And he was me and a friend went for a walk into the bush, and we were gone for maybe half an hour, and they were there for a fair, a fete. And when they went into the bush, the fair and the fete was still happening, and then they came out of the bush and everyone was gone. The fete had disappeared, and it had been 5 hours or something, but they were in the bush for, I think it was he said half an hour. But when they came,
a lost time event.
Yeah, a lost time event.
Oh my God.
Yep. So there's weird shit going on at that school.
Yeah, I know the school very well.
Yep, very.
I used to go to the school.
Used to be staff school, yeah.
And it is absolutely I personally never had anything happen to me there, but everyone that goes there, even people that didn't believe in ghosts, were just it's creepy. It's just because it's such a really very old building, and it's right in the bush as well, so it's very secluded, and I think there's just a long history there.
Weird energy. And I think also it was because it is quite an old school, and before it was a school, it was a place for nuns and priests to study and stay and live and stuff. But I think it was one of those places that weren't always it wasn't that nice. It was it had a bit of yuck history behind it and stuff like that.
Probably did. And a lot of rumours about things as well that you don't really know if they're true or not when you're younger, just hearing sorts of things. So I'm glad that Jaden's kind of confirmed it a little bit.
So.
There's actually been some sort of sighting or hearing
confirmation behind it.
Yeah,
I know,
that's good.
I love that. I am absolutely not surprised that this location has come up, because it's
I love that her dad was it's haunted.
Yeah, it's haunted for sure. I love science people who are it's haunted. There's a ghost there.
There's something wrong.
Something happening.
There's something wrong here.
All right. So let's move on to my next story. Okay, so this is from Anonymous. And this, I found this to be really interesting. This person reached out to me, and And I almost feel like she had so much to say and I had so many questions that we didn't really get to fully cover like the extent of what she's experienced. But we have a story from her and we'll read it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So my sleep paralysis experience is a bit crazy. I have had sleep paralysis since a really traumatic thing that happened in my teen years triggered it. And now when I am stressed or sick or overtired, it just happens. It has been a while since I've gotten it. And as I've been learning to cope with... Sorry, start that sentence again. It has been a while since I've gotten it as I've been learning how to cope with it. But when I was living with my in-laws, there was something at that house that really didn't like having me there. I was home one day sick. I was half asleep on the couch in the living room. And I had this feeling like I wasn't exactly safe, but I was trying to just ignore it. Right before I actually fell asleep, I felt something grab my leg and pull me. I jolted awake and I decided to go into the bedroom as I felt a bit safer in there. So I was asleep in the bedroom and I felt myself falling into a sleep paralysis. I've had this for so long, I know now when it's going to happen. So I was laying on my back and I couldn't open my eyes properly and a really bright light was shining in my eyes. When I go into a sleep paralysis, I always have to try to move my hands to hit myself in the face. I can usually feel it, but when I look down, I can see that my hands are always still by my side. So, which is weird. So this time when I went to look down, I saw a shadow sitting on my chest. This had never happened before, so I freaked out. The shadow then moved up and I felt an arm go over my neck and a hand on my face. And the shadow tried to twist my neck, almost like it was choking me and forcing my head to the side. I was fighting against it, but then a thought came into my mind saying that if I keep doing this, I could actually hurt myself. So I had to try and relax and just let what was going to happen to happen. I was able to start moving my toes and that snapped me out of it. And she also said, she just kind of left that there. So... I was like, tell me more. And because she also she messaged me being like, I've had experience with the Hat Man. Like I've had experience with shadow people. And that's where I was like.
We had so many messages after that episode.
So many.
Insane.
So many.
That many people have seen the Hat Man.
So many people. And she's one of them. And so I was kind of thinking that she was going to like explain more about the Hat Man. So after she told me this, I was like, oh, can you elaborate on like your Hat Man experience? And she basically said that like the Hat Man was in that same house and basically he was just following her around the house constantly. Like even in the daytime, he was like just following her around. And she would always like catch him out of the corner of her eye. And like she could just constantly see him just there following her in like the back of her mind, like her eyes, you know. So yeah, that's
shit. That's creepy. Oh, I'm glad you asked a little bit more.
I know. I kind of feel like I left it a little bit like unresolved. I did actually plan to ask her like more questions, but I didn't get the chance to get around to it because I got a bit like overwhelmed with messages and stuff for the Halloween episode. So, but I really felt that in my soul. That one got so dark. Because imagine feeling like something is trying to like twist your neck.
That's the thing, and you wouldn't know how to react. Like, do I resist it or do I just let it happen because I'll hurt myself?
Exactly.
Like, is it trying to make me do it?
Exactly. Well, I think that's kind of what she's saying. Like, I just let it happen because the resisting was going to hurt her more. Yeah. You know?
And that is so scary to just think like, I'm going to let this unknown force just
hurt
break my neck. That is fucking terrifying. I've never had anything like that before, and that scares me so much.
And just the thought that something can be so physical in that way as well. It's like, it's not just trying to scare you visually. It is putting its hands on you and hurting you and choking you. No, that's a no from me. Yeah. That's a no from me.
I didn't know it could get
that bad.
I didn't know it could get that bad. I'll be honest. That's actually really scary. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah, thank you, Anonymous. I really appreciate you reaching out and sharing your story.
I'm starting to feel like a lot of people have had these type of encounters that, as I was saying, like so many people were messaging us afterwards, and some people I didn't know, some people I did know, and it was, they're like, oh yeah, it's weird. You've just made me like think about this thing that happened that I've never really
100%
thought about before. And I'm like, whoa.
It's the same with myself. Like until starting this podcast, it's like, I've had an experience like this or like
it starts this conversation where you don't talk about it normally, and during the day you're busy. You don't really you're not going to be like, I'm just going to think about random things that happen.
And I think normalizing it a little bit can help as well. I'm not saying that all these paranormal things are just totally true, but to talk about it more does open up the conversation about what's happening to people, and what people's experiences are. All right, so for those listening, you may have just seen a little jump in like the audio video because I don't consider my house to be haunted, but a whole bunch of really, really weird fucking shit just happened in my house. So I haven't even told Steph what happened. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing that happened was not long ago, me and my boyfriend bought a new baby monitor to watch our daughter at nighttime. And it's a monitor that tells you when there's sounds. It gives you a notification. It tells you when there's movement, but it also tells you when there's a human body like in the recording space. And usually the only time that it comes up with that is when I've got my phone in my hand and I'm reaching in to pick her up out of the cot and it says human body detected. I've never seen it ever detect human body when I've not been in there. As we were recording, because I kind of have to watch my kid while we're recording, just to spoil the fucking spookiness. But but I saw there was a notification that came up saying human body detected, and I couldn't see anything on the monitor. And then, like a second later, my phone died, my computer died, and then one of my lights just turned off at one time. I don't know what's going on. This is why I had to stop recording, because I had to plug everything in and try and turn it all on.
Oh
and
my
then
God.
Turn my monitor. Yeah. Wow.
Okay. It can detect when there's a body.
It can detect when there's a human body, which I don't know how, but it can. And it's always accurate. Like the only time that it says like human body detected is when it can see me reaching in to like pick her up. That's weird.
Okay.
I don't know what just happened.
Now I'm getting quite
spooky.
Quite spooked,
yeah, I'm just setting the mood for the rest of the episode. Sorry about that, everyone. We're all good.
Oh my God. Okay.
All right. Whose turn is it? It's your turn.
It's my turn.
Sorry,
okay.
but yes, thank you for that very creepy story, Anonymous.
Yeah, thanks.
We really like that one.
Okay. All right. So this is also from Anonymous. So they didn't want to share who they were. Almost 30 years ago, I was living in Lismore. So for those who don't know, that's northern New South Wales. And came to Sydney to visit family with my 9-month-old daughter. My sister was living with a friend in the Rocks in a stunning, partly renovated 3-story terraced house. So if anyone doesn't know where the Rocks are as well, it's like kind of like when Australia first was colonised, I guess that's kind of where it all began, like where they started building. So the Rocks is like really old and creepy.
Very old, yeah.
Old buildings.
One of Australia's oldest pubs is in the Rocks.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very old.
It's wild there, yeah. So I was only staying one night. I vaguely remember everyone organising where I was going to sleep. It was decided that I would be sleeping in the loft. There was some discussion that it may be haunted, but I wasn't too fazed. The loft was very small but interesting. There was a small wooden cradle in the room and a bed. I put my daughter in the cradle next to the bed and I tried to fall asleep. I woke up suddenly in the middle of the night. I was facing the doorway. It was wide open. I sensed this very large male energy standing in the doorway. It felt very sinister. I became petrified. I immediately felt protective of my daughter who was sleeping close to the bed. The energy started moving towards me. I felt it very strongly. It was a very dark energy. It came up right next to me by the bed. I felt extremely helpless because my body froze. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. Sheer terror. I closed my eyes and I think I prayed. And then I felt a shift. The dark energy had just suddenly left.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a creepy
very
one.
Creepy.
That is...
I think I've had a few experiences of my own in life where you may not be able to see something, and as I keep on saying, I'm quite skeptical, but I've had experiences where it's just like, what is this feeling? It is so overwhelming.
Wow.
And like I was telling you, like I think it was like a couple of episodes ago that I had this overwhelming feeling of something wanting to grab my legs, and nothing grabbed my legs, but it's like you can sense things, you know? So it's obviously what's going on. Like,
this sounds like a really, very strong sense. And to think you've got your daughter there too, and you're just like, you're not on your own, and you're like, I don't know, I can't fucking do anything.
You would go into like full protective, like mother mode, especially when it's something that you can't see. Because like, what do you do? Like, you just...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh my
That's
God.
horrible.
That's so creepy.
I don't like that. Like, I like this story. It's a great story, but I don't like that happening for someone.
The Rocks is so interesting. Like, there's so much history there.
So much history.
We've got to do a little tour, I reckon.
I did a ghost tour. I did a ghost tour of the Rocks.
Did you?
I did. It was good, but a little bit disappointing. I think it was like one...
More history than ghosts.
Yep, exactly. Okay. It was we like basically like just did a tour of the Rocks, and there was like one house that we went into, and it wasn't that creepy. It was like just kind of like an old house.
Like, I'm all for the history tours, but if I'm going on a history tour, I expect the history, and then ghost tour, there's got to be a 100%. Perfect balance. I need the history to understand.
You know what? Exactly. I've been on so many ghost tours, and I think there's been like one that hasn't just ended up being like a history tour. Like one that's actually like so fucking creepy and terrifying with like ghost hunting equipment and stuff like that.
I haven't been on that many.
We should go on one. Lockdown is finished now. We're both double vaxxed. We should go to a ghost tour.
Yeah, if anyone knows of any like really good ones in Sydney or like, you know, New South Wales, let us know, because
we should do it, and we'll record it.
There's a few on our list, but if there's ones that we wouldn't know about, that would be awesome, because we can do it now.
No, I can't wait to do ghost hunting and everything with you.
I can't wait.
All right. So what do we have next? Oh, okay. I'm so excited for this one. This is kind of like the creme de la creme of our stories. Right. So what have we got? Sorry, just 1 second. So this is from Chris.
All right.
My first encounter with a shadow person actually occurred as a dream, but the feeling of it haunted me afterwards and didn't go away for years, and the encounter that followed was even more terrifying. In the dream, I was walking through my house at night. all the lights were out, and I was on my way back to bed when I heard the sound of scratching at the front door. Thinking it was just one of my cats, I opened the door. I looked around and couldn't see anything, so I started to close the door. As it was closing, though, I felt something big ram into the door, sending me stumbling backwards. This shadow person then rushed towards me and pinning me against the wall on the other side, lifting me up by the throat until I woke up from letting out a scream. So we're already terrified of what the fuck this is.
Okay.
Yeah, Chris has a lot to say. So the following experience I had, and this is the one that he's saying is like the most terrifying one, this second experience.
Right.
So the following experience I had a few years later occurred as I woke up in the middle of the night. This same shaped shadow person, too black to make out any depth or defining features. Chris said it was almost like Vanta black. So it was just like blacker than black. Do you know what Vanta black is?
Your background?
Yeah, pretty exactly.
It's like just so black.
And like Vanta black is actually like a brand of paint that it's like the blackest paint you'll ever have, and it just absorbs almost 100% of light. Yes,
I've seen that. It's like very expensive. Very expensive. And it's like crazy.
Yeah, so dark. Like there's no, it sucks up all the light. So he said that this shadow is almost like Vanta black. He said it was roughly 6 foot tall. He said it was skinny and bold. Bold.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, yuck. And it was sitting on my chest with its hands clamped around my throat. So he's saying this second experience he had was that he actually was awake. Again. He woke up in the middle of the night, and after he woke up, this is what he saw sitting on his chest.
Right.
With its hands clamped around my throat. I couldn't move. All I could do was stare back at it until I was able to snap out of my paralysis. Doing so felt like waking up a second time, which was bizarre. But for a brief moment, the shadow person was still there, just slowly fading away. Seeing the shadow person both times filled me with this pure terror and dread, unlike anything else I've ever experienced. I have had other ghost experiences, but they're entirely different to shadow people. So this is when I started to ask him some questions, because I was like, what the fuck? This is so intense.
Good.
So
it's really
very intense. So I asked him, did you feel like when you had the paralysis that the figure was a type of entity? And do you feel like the sleep paralysis in general is more than just like paralysis or dreaming? So I'm just asking him like if he thinks that paralysis is tied to like, you know, entities and the paranormal.
All right. Yeah.
And Chris replied with, while its shape was humanoid, it didn't feel human. I feel like my dreams, as strange as they can be, are very obviously dreams, even the bad ones. The experience I had with this sleep paralysis was completely different. It felt so real. So he's had horrible dreams, but this felt very real, and he feels like it is tied to, you know, paranormal. And then I asked him, do you feel like this thing is ever near you when you haven't been able to see it? And Chris said, yes, absolutely. There were numerous times where I felt like it was right behind me or next to me, but out of my line of sight, but just staring at me. It felt horrible. And this reminds me of what the anonymous post from before was saying, that she felt like the Hat Man was constantly like watching her and staring at her.
Yeah.
And then I asked, do you feel like the first part of your experience where you dreamt the being coming through the door, that even though it was a dream, it was actually something sinister still visiting you in a very real capacity? And Chris again said, yeah, absolutely. To the point where I actually turned my lights on and sat up for a while. I felt like it was just waiting for me to go back asleep again.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and I asked him if he had any other sleep paralysis experiences other than this one, and he said no. After that, he didn't have any. It's like the one and only. So it's not like he had a history of sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just asked him generally if he'd had any other kind of like negative dream experiences on that level, and he said no, not on that level at all. So this is for him like a very kind of like singular.
That's so
experience.
Scary that.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just going to have something like this now because, yeah, if it's not, it's just completely out of the blue.
Yeah, just random, totally random. And like Chris said, I'm pretty sure Chris said that he was like talking to someone in class about it once, like he was studying.
Oh, okay.
And the person that he was talking to said that, she has seen something similar, and it was wearing a hat, and she used to call him the Monopoly Man. And which is just
the Monopoly
so much
Man.
more horrible. But
the new entity, the Monopoly
Man. Yeah, so
okay,
that was a very intense one. That was like very, very full on.
Wow, that's really heavy. It's
very heavy.
Just to have that fear of going back to sleep as well.
It's like torture.
And just that is like torture.
You can't go back to sleep. You can't. Yeah.
That's fucking terrifying. Holy shit,
man.
Thanks for sharing that, because that's really intense. Like, I think I feel like we're going to get a lot of, like, please everyone just send us more stories, because I feel like so many people have sleep paralysis encounters, or whatever we call experiences, and no one really knows what they are as well. Like, to have them that vivid and that real, where you can feel it, you can like, it's just so realistic. I think it's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
I don't want to experience it.
Oh
but
my God.
I
do so much like in my sleeping time to avoid sleep paralysis. Like, I make sure I never sleep on my back, all that kind of shit. Like, I can't imagine anything more terrifying than just not being able to move, but then having like this hag sitting on your chest, or like the shadow man. I don't even want to talk about it.
That's
intense. I feel like it's just gonna like,
I know,
make it
slowly
happen.
cursing ourselves.
But thanks, Chris. Really, really enjoyed listening to that.
Sure did. Oh my God. All right. Well, let's move on to this is my last one for the night. And this is from one of our lovely friends, Ailey.
Hi, Ailey. Thank you, Ailey.
And also listener and lovely Ailey. So, all right, let's get into this one. Okay, so I'll set the scene. It's the end of the 90s. I'm living with my single mum and baby sister in our little cottage in the mountains. Mum is studying hard, and in the evenings, it was a regular occurrence that she'd remember that we needed milk, eggs, bread, etc. for breakfast the next morning. Yeah. Sounds very familiar. This night was a particularly windy one, and because she can't leave us at home, we all hop into the car and whip up to the local shop for milk. I would have been around 8 in the front seat, and my little sister was in a car seat in the back. I reckon it was about 7 p.m. because it was dark and we were in our PJs. Now, the trip to the shops was only about a 3-minute drive. As we drove up to our street, we got to an intersection I knew well, but this night became very different to our regular shop runs. As Mum pulled our beat-up hatchback to the intersection, she lingered for much longer than usual, causing me to look over to the driver's seat. When I looked over at Mum, I could see she was looking up out of the window. I naturally also then looked out of the passenger side to see what was causing the hold-up. What we saw, we still talk about to this day, and have never had any instances since. As I looked out the window, I saw a black triangular silhouette hovering above us. As my brain tried to process what was happening, Mum instinctively turned off the car engine and I knew something was alarming her. I wasn't scared at the time. When you're a kid, you're always experiencing new things. So I was really looking to Mum to figure out if this had an explanation or not. In silence, we watched as this featureless black triangle passed overhead. It had no lights, much like many other black triangle sightings, but moved extremely slowly with absolutely no sound. The town we lived in had very little light pollution, so you always had a great view of the Milky Way overhead. But this thing just blocked out the stars as it passed. We couldn't tell and still don't know whether it was just close to the car and it appeared massive or whether it was actually the size of a football field. Oh my
God.
Yeah.
Oh no.
An eerie, unsettling feeling washed over us as we both realised its slow movement and lack of lights or sound meant it wasn't a regular aircraft. It moved at a snail's pace, stopping at times before snaking forward before it moved out of sight. I couldn't tell you how long the encounter was at the time, and my mum was in shock. And my mum, in shock, just turned the car back on and continued to the shop. When we got back home, I remember asking her what that was, and she couldn't give me an answer. I distinctly remember going to bed that night very frightened, not necessarily because of the encounter itself, but because I could feel my mum's concern. Years later, I brought this up with my mum because I needed to confirm that it wasn't just childhood imagination. She confirmed the story and we have discussed it a lot since. We now just kind of accept that we saw a UFO that night and are unlikely to have any answers. What surprises us still is that we don't know anyone else who saw it in our town. It's a small area, but we were in a pretty populated suburb and this thing, even at night, was unmissable. The closest thing I found that bears a lot of similarities are the reports of the Phoenix lights in Arizona. The triangular shape, the lack of sound and slow movement is all the same, only we had no lights on whatever we saw. The black triangle was the single strangest thing either of us has witnessed but remains an unanswered phenomenon.
Oh, Ailey. That's so hectic. Oh God.
That story, haunts me.
There is something about black triangles that it's almost like the stealthy evil UFO. I don't even know if they're evil, but it kind of just the way that they present themselves.
It's too mysterious.
Because there's no lights on them, which is so different.
There's no lights. It doesn't want to be seen. It's no lights.
No sound.
Completely black. But not knowing the size as well, that's just terrifying.
And then just the way that it moved and they don't know the size. They don't know if it's really high in the sky and fucking massive or it's just really close to them.
Yeah. And I mean, this is a story that I've known of this story since I've known Ailey, which is a very long time. And I mean, it's just always it's never changed. She's always known it. And it's just something that you can tell it just sticks in you forever. This is so fucked up. This is actually terrifying. And to think that no one in that area saw this at all. Yeah.
And I hope she, we can always edit this out if she doesn't want this on the episode. But I know that she has had, other sightings of stuff in the sky. So
she has. I think she's okay to share
she's
that.
Seen some stuff because
she's seen some other things
sky.
In the sky.
This is not her only experience. So I feel like she's a very trusted source. I don't know. She just This
is crazy. And her mum saw it as well.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know about her younger sister. She probably was too young to kind of understand what was happening.
Yeah. Even at like Ailey's age at that time is kind of like on the border of understanding like what the fuck is happening.
You're absorbing like everything that's happening.
Yeah. Oh, thanks so much for that one. That was fantastic. That was very spooky.
Thanks so much, Ailey. Thanks for sharing that. I think people are our listeners are gonna like that one.
There is something going on in the mountains with UFOs. There have been so many sightings in the Blue Mountains. I was thinking today, actually, I think it was last year, possibly, there was a UFO seen at a lookout in the daytime. And someone took a photo and it was like all over social media, like Facebook. Like it would have been our Facebook because
Where was this?
Where? Or when? Would have been last year sometime. Like it.
Oh shit! That's really recent.
It wasn't that long ago, and there was a really clear photo, and it was. I want to say it was maybe like Govet's Leap, lookout, but it was a very like tall lookout where there was like a valley.
Okay.
But I've looked so many times for this photo, and it has seemingly just disappeared from the internet. Conveniently. So I want to try and
I'm gonna try and look for that now.
See if you can find it. But like it was all over.
I've got some homework to do.
Sleuthing. Got some sleuthing. Like it was all over Facebook because everyone that I know is like mainly from the mountains, and so everyone was like, "Oh my god, it's like UFO, blah blah blah," and then it's just like,
man, that's so cool.
Yeah, and then it's just like disappeared from the internet. So.
It's been taken down, been removed.
All right. So this is... okay. So this is our final story. And again, this is from a friend of mine. This is from the amazing and fantastic Telia. She emailed this to us. And she actually titled it The Caravan Man. I was really excited to be moving into my own place after being new to Alice Springs and living in the back corner of a cavernous shed by yogis, which is very like on brand for Telia.
Okay. Love it.
About 1 month before, I had been to a party a little out of town through the Gap at a gorgeous homestead property. They had a caravan on the land that was up for rent. So I was now moving into the caravan. It was a long caravan with 3 living spaces, dining area, kitchen, and bedroom, with a shipping container annex attached to the side with heaps of space and its own concrete slab as laundry and bathroom. It was pretty basic, but heaps of space for one person and nestled into a bush block. It had everything I needed. On the first night, I was reading and dozing off in the caravan bedroom. I turned the bedroom light off and listened to the noise of the wind around me. When I opened my eyes, I saw a clear, dark figure of a man sitting on the end of my bed, facing away from me, which I find to be like a lot scarier than something like staring at you. I think it's just like facing away from you.
Yeah.
I froze. He was there, but not there. I convinced myself it must be shadows from the branches and the moonlight. Plus, I was scared stiff, so I shut my eyes, rolled myself in a ball, and fell asleep. When I woke up, it was the first thing I thought about, and I avoided the side of the room I had seen the man in, which had the caravan, which was near the caravan doorway, and little steps down into the bathroom, so kind of near her bathroom area. I never used that doorway without a sense of walking through dense, thick air, almost like a patch of sauna air or a curtain of an invisible shower or something like coming through a waterfall or something like that, but not wet, and no change in temperature either. The next night, this figure became real. I was awoken by the noise and feeling of the metal mattress compressing next to me on the springs.
Oh my fucking God.
Yep.
Okay.
The dark, almost dense black figure was sitting next to me on the bed. I bolted, turning on all the lights as I ran outside. In the daytime, he was not clearly seen, but the thick air presence was notable. He would only ever linger in the caravan acoustics in the day as well as at night. So I think what she's saying there is kind of like you would hear noises and it's almost like an echo of him.
Okay.
There was a feeling of being intensely watched and an overwhelming feeling that I was unwelcome. At night, he would stand in the doorway and watch me cook dinner. He...
oh, come on. No. No.
He never came into the kitchen and I never purposely looked in his direction. So it's kind of like a give-take situation. By this stage, I had moved my bed into the lounge room and was not bothered by him out there. I only used the bedroom to store my clothes, usually only entering in the daylight as that was his domain and it was clear that I was an intrusion. I told my friends in the homestead what was going on, as I was essentially renting a possessed caravan and sharing with a short, bold, rotundish, grumpy old ghost. We decided to try and shift the entity on. My friend felt confident to do this, and I agreed to follow her lead. In daylight, we burned sage and eucalyptus leaves and moved slowly around the annex entrance, around the room and into the caravan. I was a bit clueless but kept pluming the smoke around the rooms into the corners. I'm not sure what prayers or mantras my friend was using, if any, but the intention to flush the caravan of unwanted residents was serious and clearly building in power as we moved in on the bedroom. The thick air in the bedroom was forcefully repellent. The smoke seemed to clear the air as we advanced through the bedroom, pushing the unseen entity down the little caravan steps and into the bathroom. This is where it gets really weird. I remember looking up and feeling very small and low in energy. I was now sitting on the bathroom floor. I looked up at my friend who was standing tall and strong, smiling at me encouragingly. Nothing was audible. I looked past her and up onto the ceiling. On the ceiling, I saw a round hole had opened up into the air above the shower through the roof, about 1.5 meters wide. I saw people peering in and looking down from the sky above. They were beckoning with their arms to come. Then this bit happened very fast and left me spinning. A lady with red hair, a warm, loving smile, and a bun in her hair leant over the hole with open arms and called, "Come on," but with no sounds, just mouthing these words. This lady was something the caravan man connected with, I feel. It was like an extended blink, and my friend and I were alone in the bathroom. The round vortex hole had disappeared. All the rooms, including the bedroom, were free. The man was gone and he never came back.
Wow.
A pretty intense story from Telia.
Thank you. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That is an encounter. That's what a scary time to know that that thing is living in there.
Yeah. And he's willing to be close, like sit next to you, be close to you.
Day and night.
Telia is like, so I've known Telia for a fair few years now, and she's like one of my best friends. Like I absolutely love her to death, and she is very much like a no bullshit type person, like very straightforward and there's like no way that she would ever express something like this without her being like clear that this has happened.
Plus it's so specific as well. So like specific. I feel like with stories like this, like I couldn't even make up something like that.
And I don't think she would. Like, I don't think she would. And she's very in touch with like that kind of thing also.
And we both had our own experiences. Like I think I'm assuming most of our listeners have as well. Like
totally.
That's amazing. Yeah. That is, it ends really
very creepily. And I know she's had like, I don't know specifics, so I won't go into it because I'll probably just like get it wrong. But I know she has had other experiences with like feeling like she's being watched from things above. I know that's something that has happened to her before. I don't know in what like capacity, but yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so she's a little bit in touch, but she's also very like no bullshit and like yeah. And yeah. So thanks Teals. We love that one.
Thank you.
That was so much fun.
Oh my God.
And that's all our stories.
We've had a really wide range of stories. That was awesome. I'm so happy with
all of them. I did notice that majority of mine were like shadow people though. Like all apart from one was shadow people. The first one from Kathleen and Sarah was the green flash, the alien. And then the rest was shadow people.
Mr. Burns flying across the sky.
The Mr. Burns.
How can you laugh?
I'm trying to think of what he says. That's what it is. All right. Well, that was so much fun. I can't wait until next Halloween.
That was great. Yeah. I mean, we definitely want to keep doing stuff like this. I guess we've got to try and figure out why we'd be doing it. I mean, for our regular weeklies, that's too much fucking effort.
Maybe Christmas can be our next one. We could do something for Christmas.
Oh, yeah. I think we can do a Christmas one. Just get... That would be fun.
Have like Christmas,
we'll find our
Christmas-themed ghost stories or something. Something like that.
Yeah. We could do that. Hope you guys enjoyed watching or listening to this. This is really fun for us. Like, it was really different.
If you are listening, it would be great if you headed over to our YouTube and watched us, because it's just like a whole new level of getting to know us, and you know.
Yeah, we can look each other in the eyes.
Stare you down.
I have no fucking idea where I'm meant to look, by the way. I'm looking at, I've got camera, me, and I've been doing triangles with my eyes like this whole
I've just been looking at you the whole time, and then I realised halfway through, it's like, oh, should I stare at the camera?
I have no idea. I'm looking everywhere, so I'm going to look like a bit of a chameleon for this episode.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. We've loved doing this, and we can't wait until we do something like this again. All right. Bye.
See you guys. Bye.
This episode of Spooky Mountain was created and recorded on land of the original custodians, the Gundungurra and Bidjigal people. We pay respects to the past, present, and emerging mob. My name is Geordie, and I'm a proud Gunya woman. Thank you for listening.